Jesse Hollowell ripped open his coat and shoved the child inside against his bare chest. She was not breathing. 3 years old, no shoes, no coat, skin the color of ash. He slapped her back once, twice. Nothing. He pressed his ear to her ribs and heard it. Faint. Fading. A heartbeat that had almost given up. Then her eyes opened. She looked straight at him, and she said one word. Papa. Jesse had buried his daughter 4 years ago. He had buried that word with her. Now it was back, and it brought 3 little girls with it. Before we continue this story, I want to ask you something. Drop a comment right now and tell me what city you are watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches tonight. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now and stay until the very end. Because what Jesse finds out about these 3 little girls will break everything he thought he knew about his family, about his brother, and about the daughter he buried 4 years ago. She was already dead. That was Jesse's first thought. The child in his arms was not moving, not breathing, not anything. 3 years old, maybe less. Cotton dress frozen stiff against skin that had gone past blue into something worse, something gray. Jesse had seen cattle freeze standing up this winter, had seen a man's fingers turn black and snap off like twigs. January 1887, Wyoming Territory. The winter they would call the Great Die-Up. The winter that killed everything. But he was not going to let it kill this baby. He slapped her back, hard. Harder than you should hit something that small. Nothing. He turned her over, pressed his mouth to hers, blew air into lungs the size of his fists. Her chest rose, fell, rose again. Then the cough came, weak, wet, but real. "Papa," she whispered. Jesse's hands stopped. His whole body stopped. That word. That exact word in that exact voice. High and small and trusting. The same pitch. The same way Rosie used to say it when she ran across the yard with her arms out. "Papa, Papa, catch me!" Rosie had been dead 4 years. Fever took her in 3 days. Jesse had held her at the end, felt her go still, felt the weight of her change from alive to gone. Now a stranger's child was saying the word that had died with his daughter. Put it away. Not now. He shoved the memory down. Pulled the baby inside his coat against his skin. Felt her heartbeat. Weak. Wrong. But there. That was when the voice came from behind him. "Mister, please, do not hurt her." Jesse turned. 2 more children stood in the snow. The older one was 9, maybe 10. Auburn hair matted with ice. Blue-gray eyes that looked 30 years older than the face they sat in. She had planted herself between Jesse and the younger girl. Feet wide, fists clenched. Ready to fight a man 3 times her size in a blizzard that would kill her in an hour. The younger one stood behind her. 6 years old, blonde hair plastered flat. Brown eyes, huge and empty. She was clutching something against her chest. A piece of paper. Crumpled. Dirty. She held it the way other children held dolls. "I ain't hurting nobody," Jesse said. "This baby needs warmth. Now!" "Who are you?" The older girl did not answer his question. She asked her own. "Is this the Hollowell Ranch?" Jesse went still. "How do you know that name?" "Is it or ain't it?" "It is." "Then we are in the right place." The girl's voice cracked. She swayed on her feet, caught herself. We just need one night, sir. One night and we will be gone. I swear it. You ain't going nowhere tonight. None of you. Jesse jerked his head toward the house. Smoke was pouring from the chimney. The only warm thing in a frozen world. Move. Now. Before this storm takes all of us. The older girl grabbed the younger one's hand. They followed. The younger one never made a sound. Not a whimper, not a word. Just those empty brown eyes staring at nothing. Jesse kicked the front door open. Heat rushed out. Lola appeared from the kitchen. 58 years old. Gray hair pulled back. 20 years working this ranch. She had been there when Rosie was born. Been there when they buried her. She saw the baby, crossed herself. Dios mío. How long she been like this? I do not know. Found them at the fence line. Jesse laid Bertie on the rug by the fire. She is burning up. Fever is bad. Lola's hands were already moving. Wet clothes off, warm blankets on. She pressed her palm to Bertie's forehead, and her face changed. This is 103 at least, maybe higher. She looked at Jesse. I need hot water, chamomile, and every blanket in this house. Go. Jesse moved to the kitchen, pumped water, set it on the stove. His hands were shaking, not from the cold. The older girl had followed him. She stood in the kitchen doorway, watching, measuring, taking the count of every exit, every window, every object she could use as a weapon. Jesse recognized the look. He had seen it on wild horses the day before they either broke or killed you. Sit down, he said. There is stew on the stove, bread in the box. Feed yourself and your sister. The girl did not sit. She fed the younger one first, put a bowl in front of her, watched her eat. Only then did she take a bowl for herself, and even while she ate, her eyes never left Jesse. What is your name? Jesse asked. Eliza. Eliza May Colton. She nodded toward the younger girl. That is Hannah. She does not talk. She sick too? No, sir. Eliza's voice went flat. She just stopped talking. About 4 months ago. Jesse looked at Hannah. The 6-year-old was eating with one hand. The other hand still held that crumpled paper against her chest. She had not let go of it once. Not when she walked through the snow. Not when she sat down. Not now. What happened 4 months ago? Jesse asked. Eliza's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down. Looked at Jesse with those old eyes. Our uncle happened. From the front room, Lola called out, Mr. Hollowell, come here, now. Her voice was wrong. Jesse knew that voice. Had heard it once before. 4 years ago, when Lola was undressing Rosie for her fever bath and found the rash that meant scarlet fever. He walked to the front room. Lola had pulled back Bertie's blanket. The baby's arms were bare. Jesse saw the bruises. Old ones, yellow-green, the shape of fingers, on both arms, on her ribs. Someone had grabbed this child, squeezed her, shook her, more than once, more than twice. His jaw locked. I seen these marks before, Lola said quietly. My sister in Guadalajara. Her husband did the same. Grabbed her when he was drunk. Shook her when she cried. She paused. My sister did not survive, Mr. Hollowell. She was 19. Jesse stood, walked back to the kitchen. Eliza was watching him. She already knew what he had seen, had been waiting for it. Your uncle did that to Bertie. It was not a question. Eliza did not treat it like one. Yes, sir. To all of you? Eliza pulled up her sleeve. Faded bruises, belt marks, one burn scar, circular, deliberate. Cigar. Jesse felt rage hit his chest like a fist. Hot. Blinding. The old anger. His father's anger. The thing that lived in his blood and waited for moments exactly like this. He gripped the edge of the table, breathed, forced the rage down into the place where he kept it locked. "Who is your uncle?" "Edgar Prescott." The name landed like a stone dropped in still water. Edgar Prescott, Elkhorn Creek's banker, front pew at church every Sunday, held notes on half the businesses in town, shook hands like a preacher, smiled like a man who had never once done wrong. "How long you been living with him?" "6 months, since Papa died in June." Jessie pulled out a chair, sat down across from her. "And how did you end up at my gate, in a blizzard, 50 miles from town?" Eliza looked at Hannah. Hannah was not eating anymore. She had set down her spoon and was doing something with the crumpled paper, smoothing it out on the table. Not a letter, a drawing. Charcoal on brown wrapping paper. A house, a man in the doorway, something in his hand, a belt, and 3 small figures huddled in a corner. Jessie stared at the drawing. His throat tightened. "Hannah drew that last week," Eliza said. "She draws everything she cannot say. She has 40 more like it in her coat." Jessie looked at Hannah. The 6-year-old was adding something to the drawing. A 4th figure, bigger than the others, standing between the man and the 3 small shapes, shielding them. She had given the 4th figure a hat. A cowboy hat. Jessie looked away, looked at Eliza. "How did you find me?" "Papa told me, before he died. He gave me a letter, said if anything happened, if Uncle Edgar ever hurt us, I should find you." She paused. "He said you were his brother." The kitchen went very quiet. The stove popped. The wind screamed outside. Inside, nothing moved. Jessie's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Samuel." Eliza nodded. "Samuel Colton. Samuel Prescott. Samuel, whatever dash name dash he dash was dash using. Jessie's younger brother, the one who left 18 years ago, changed his name, vanished, sent no letters, made no contact, cut Jessie out like a dead limb. Jessie had not spoken that name in years, had trained himself not to. Samuel was gone, had been gone before he died and been gone worse after. But now his daughters were sitting in Jessie's kitchen, eating Jessie's stew, carrying Jessie's name in a dead man's handwriting. "Your father," Jessie said slowly. "He told you about me. He talked about you all the time." Eliza's voice went soft. "About when you were boys. About the ranch. About how you used to protect him from your daddy when he got mean." She paused. "Papa said you were the best man he ever knew. Said if anything happened to him, you were the only person in the world he trusted with us." Jessie stood up, walked to the window, pressed his forehead against the cold glass. His reflection stared back at him, gaunt, hollowed out, the face of a man who had not slept right in 4 years. Samuel trusted him. Samuel, who had left without a word, who had not come to Catherine's funeral, who had not sent flowers when Rosie died. Samuel still trusted him. Why did he not come to me himself? Why send you? "Because he is dead, Mr. Hollowell. I know he is dead. I mean before. Why did he not come before? In 18 years, why not once?" Eliza was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that hit Jessie harder than anything else that night. "He wrote to you 3 times. You never wrote back." Jessie turned. "I never got any letters." Eliza stared at him. Something shifted in her eyes. Fear. Not of Jessie, of something else. Something she was putting together in her head. Papa said the same thing. Said maybe you burned them. But then he said maybe someone made sure you never got them. Someone who did not want you talking to each other. Edgar? Eliza did not answer, but her face said enough. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, the storm battered the windows. In the front room, Bertie coughed. Small and wet and wrong. Lola appeared in the kitchen doorway. The baby's fever is dropping. A little. She will make it through the night, I think. But, Mr. Hollowell, she stopped. That child has not been fed properly in weeks. Her ribs show. All their ribs show. Jessie nodded. Make up the guest room. All three together. See. Lola looked at Eliza. Come, mija. Bring your sister. You are safe here tonight. Eliza stood, took Hannah's hand. Hannah gathered her drawing carefully, folded it, pressed it back against her chest. They followed Lola down the hall. At the doorway, Eliza stopped, turned back. Mr. Hollowell. Yeah. Uncle Edgar will come looking for us. He always does. He found us in Cheyenne in 2 days. Found us in Laramie in 3. She paused. He has the marshal in his pocket. He has the judge, too. He will come here, and he will have papers, and he will smile, and everyone will believe him, because that is what he does. He makes people believe. Jessie met her eyes. Let him come. You do not understand. Eliza's voice dropped. The last family that tried to help us? The Hendersons in Cheyenne. He paused. Their barn burned down a week after we left. Their horses were inside. Jessie felt the cold settle into his bones. Not from the storm, from the truth of what this child was telling him. I ain't the Hendersons, Eliza. No, sir, you ain't. That is what scares me. Because Papa said you were stubborn enough to fight. And the people who fight Edgar are the ones who get hurt the worst. She turned, disappeared down the hall. Jessie heard the guest room door close. Heard Lola's voice, soft, gentle. The sound of blankets being arranged, of children settling into a bed that was not theirs, but was warm and dry and safe. Jessie sat alone in the kitchen, coffee going cold in his hand. He thought about Samuel, about the boy who used to follow him around the ranch like a shadow, who used to climb into Jessie's bed during thunderstorms, who Jessie had shielded from their father's fists 100 times. 1,000 times. He thought about the last time he saw his brother. A Tuesday morning. Samuel, 20 years old, standing at the gate with a bag over his shoulder. Jessie, 27, watching from the porch. Too proud to ask him to stay. Too angry to say goodbye. Samuel had looked back once, just once, then walked away. 18 years. No letters that arrived. No visits. No word at all until 3 children showed up in a blizzard, carrying his name like a prayer. Around midnight, Jessie checked on them. Could not help himself. Opened the guest room door slow, quiet. The fire was low. Bertie was in the middle of the bed. Hannah curled around her, protective even in sleep. And Eliza. Eliza was not asleep. She was sitting up, back against the headboard, watching the door. When Jessie appeared, her hand went under the pillow, came back with a kitchen knife she had taken from the table. Easy, Jessie said. It is just me. Eliza lowered the knife, did not put it away. Do you need something? Came to check on Bertie. She is breathing better. Fever is down some. Good. Jessie leaned against the doorframe. You do this every night? Sit up and watch? Somebody has to. The words were simple, devastating. 9 years old, and she had made herself the guardian, the watchman, the one who did not sleep so the others could. Jessie looked at her, at this child wearing exhaustion like a second skin. "You can sleep tonight, Eliza. I will watch." "You do not have to." "I know I do not have to. I want to." Jessie paused. "When is the last time you slept? Real sleep, not the kind where you keep one eye open." Eliza was quiet. "Then I do not remember." Jessie pulled the chair from the corner, set it by the door, sat down. "Go to sleep, Eliza." She stared at him, the knife still in her hand. 30 seconds. A minute. Then something broke behind her eyes. Something she had been holding together by sheer force of will for 6 months. Her chin trembled. She bit her lip, hard, stopped it. "If I sleep," she said, "if I close my eyes, you will still be here when I wake up?" "I will be right here. I ain't going nowhere." Eliza looked at him for one more long moment. Then she put the knife under the pillow, lay down, pulled her sisters close. She was asleep in 2 minutes, like her body had been waiting for permission. Like all she had needed was one person to say, "I will watch, so you do not have to." Jessie sat in the chair by the door, listened to them breathe. 3 children, his brother's children, sent to him through a blizzard and a dead man's letter and 6 months of running. He thought about Edgar Prescott, about barns that burned, about judges in pockets, about a man who beat a 3-year-old and smiled in church on Sunday. He thought about the letter in Eliza's boot, the one from Samuel, the one meant for him, the one that held answers to questions Jessie did not yet know how to ask. He thought about Rosie, about how she used to sleep exactly like Birdie was sleeping now, fist curled around the blanket, mouth slightly open. The small sound of breathing that meant everything was all right. Jessie pressed his palms to his eyes, held them there until the burning stopped. In the bed, Birdie shifted. Her hand found Jessie's knee. Small fingers curled around the fabric of his jeans. Held on. Even in sleep, she held on. Jessie did not move, did not pull away, just sat there in the dark, with a dead man's daughter holding his knee, and a word he had not heard in 4 years, echoing through the empty rooms of his chest. Papa. He was not her papa. Was not anyone's papa. Had failed the one child God gave him, and spent 4 years turning himself to stone so he would never have to fail again. But this baby did not know that, did not care. She was 3 years old and cold and sick, and she had reached for the nearest solid thing and held on. And Jessie, God help him, let her. The storm raged all night. The house held. 3 children slept the deepest sleep they had known in 6 months. And in the chair by the door, a man who had sworn he would never love anything again, sat watching them breathe, and felt the ice inside his chest crack for the first time since he buried his daughter in the hard ground behind the barn. He did not sleep, did not try, just watched, and waited, and wondered what Samuel had written in that letter that was worth sending 3 children through a blizzard to deliver. Morning would come. The letter would be read. The truth would land like a hammer. But that was morning. This was now. And right now, 3 little girls were safe and warm and sleeping. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything Jessie Hollowell had not known he needed until it showed up half dead at his gate and called him Papa. Morning came gray and cold. The storm had stopped, but the sky had not cleared. Just hung there, low and heavy, like it was deciding whether to hit them again. Jessie had not moved from the chair. His back ached. His neck was stiff. His legs had gone numb somewhere around 4 in the morning. But Bertie's hand was still curled around his knee, and he had not had the heart to move it. Eliza woke first, eyes open all at once, no transition between sleep and awake. She saw Jesse in the chair, saw his hand resting near Bertie's head, saw that he had stayed. Something shifted in her face. Not trust, not yet, but the space where trust might grow if given enough time. "You stayed," she said. "I told you I would." Eliza sat up, looked at her sisters. Hannah was still asleep, curled tight, the drawing pressed to her chest even in her dreams. Bertie's breathing was better, deeper. The color in her face had come back from gray to something closer to pink. Her fever broke around 3, Jesse said. Lola checked her twice in the night. Eliza nodded, swung her legs off the bed, stood. She was still wearing the dry clothes Lola had put her in last night. Too big. The sleeves hung past her hands. She looked like a child playing dress-up in her mother's things. "Mr. Hollowell." "Yeah, the letter. The one Papa gave me." She paused. "You did not take it while I was sleeping?" "No, ma'am. That is yours to give when you are ready." Eliza studied him. Then she bent down, pulled off her boot, reached inside and pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn thin from 6 months of carrying, 6 months of hiding, 6 months of running. She held it out. "I am ready." Jesse took it. The paper was soft as cloth. His brother's handwriting on the outside. Just 2 words. For Jesse. He unfolded it, read, "Jesse, if you are reading this, then I am dead, and my girls found you. That means Eliza did what I asked. She is brave, braver than either of us ever were. Take care of them, brother. All 3. Bertie is small, but she is tough. Hannah stopped talking after what Edgar did. Do not push her. She will talk when she feels safe. Eliza carries everything. She will tell you she is fine. She is not. She has not been fine since her mama died 2 years ago. Do not let her fool you. Now the hard part. Edgar Prescott is not our uncle. He is a business partner of a mining syndicate out of British Columbia. I worked that mine in 1879. I saw a man killed. The foreman, Jacob Dunning, covered it up. I tried to report it. They came after me. I ran, changed my name, hid my family. But they found me, Jesse. Edgar found me. He cut the brake cable on my wagon, made it look like an accident. I know because I saw the cuts before I drove that road. I drove it anyway, because I needed to lead them away from the girls. There is proof. Everything. Documents, photographs, names, dates. I hid it all in the well at our old homestead outside Elkhorn Creek. The stone well. 3rd stone down from the water line on the north side. Get it, Jesse. Use it. Burn Edgar Prescott and every man who works for him. And brother, I am sorry. Sorry I left. Sorry I stayed gone. Sorry I was too proud to come home. You deserved better than my silence. The girls deserve better than my mistakes. Give them what I could not. A home, a family, someone who stays. Your brother, Samuel. Jesse read it twice, then a 3rd time. Then he folded it and put it in his shirt pocket, close to his chest, close to the heartbeat that was hammering so hard he could hear it in his ears. Eliza was watching him. "You knew," he said, "about the mine, about Edgar." "Papa told me some of it, not everything. Just enough to know that Uncle Edgar was dangerous, and that if anything happened, I should run." "You ran. Twice before. Cheyenne, Laramie. He caught us both times." Eliza's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. This time I waited. Waited until he went to Helena for bank business, took money from his desk, bought train tickets to the next town over. Then we walked. In January, in a blizzard, with a 3-year-old. I did not plan the blizzard, Mr. Hollowell. I planned the running. God planned the weather. Jessie almost smiled. Almost. How much does Hannah know? Hannah knows everything. She just cannot say it. Eliza looked at her sleeping sister. She saw things at Uncle Edgar's house. Things she drew instead of talked about. She has pictures of all of it. Every time he hit us. Every time he locked us in the cellar. Every time he... Eliza stopped. Her jaw worked. She swallowed hard. Every time. Jessie's hands clenched on his knees. What else did he do? Eliza shook her head. Not now. Not in front of them. The words hung between them, heavy, ugly, full of things a 9-year-old should never have to carry. Lola appeared in the doorway with a tray. Coffee, oatmeal, biscuits. She set it down, looked at Eliza, looked at Jessie. The baby needs to eat, small amounts, warm broth if we have it. We have it, Jessie said. He stood, his knees cracked. His body reminded him he was 39 and had sat in a wooden chair for 8 hours. He walked to the kitchen. Lola followed. You read the letter, she said. It was not a question. I read it. And? Jessie poured coffee, drank it black, burned his tongue, did not care. Samuel was murdered. Edgar Prescott killed him. There is proof hidden in a well at the old homestead. Lola crossed herself. And the children? They stay here. Mr. Hollowell. Lola's voice was careful. You know what people will say. A man alone with 3 little girls, no wife, no female relative. In this town, the talk will start before the snow melts. Let it start. It is not the talk I am worried about. It is what Edgar does with the talk. A man like that, he will use it. He will say you are unfit. He will say the children are unsafe. He will bring the law. Then I will deal with the law. Lola looked at him, hard. The way she used to look at him when he was drinking too much after Rosie died. You cannot deal with the law by being stubborn, Mr. Hollowell. You deal with it by being smart. Get a lawyer. Get the proof from that well. Get people on your side before Edgar gets here, because he will come. That girl was right about that. He will come, and he will smile, and half this town will believe every word out of his mouth. Jessie set down the cup. You are right. I know I am right. I have been right about most things for 20 years. You just do not always listen. Jessie looked at her. This woman who had raised him as much as his own mother had, who had buried his wife beside him, who had washed Rosie's body for the funeral when Jessie could not stop shaking long enough to do it himself. Thank you, Lola, for last night, for everything. Lola waved her hand. Do not thank me. Feed those children. That is thanks enough. The day passed strange and slow. Bertie's fever held at 101. Not good, but not dying. She slept mostly, woke to eat broth that Lola spooned between her lips with the patience of a woman who had fed sick children before. Hannah sat by the fire all morning, silent, drawing. She had pulled a charcoal stick from her coat and found the back of an old feed bill on Jessie's desk. She drew without stopping, without looking up, like the pictures were pouring out of her and she could not hold them back. Jessie watched from across the room. He could not see what she was drawing, was not sure he wanted to. Eliza worked, without being asked, without being told. She swept the kitchen, stacked firewood, helped Lola knead bread. Her hands moved with the practice of someone who had been doing these things for years. "She works like a grown woman," Lola said quietly to Jessie as they watched from the hallway. "Who taught her?" "She taught herself," Jessie said. "She had to." Around noon, Jessie put on his coat. "Where are you going?" Eliza asked. She was in the kitchen doorway, hands covered in flour, eyes sharp. "Town. I need to see someone." "Who?" "Father O'Brien at the church, and I need to send a message to a lawyer in Cheyenne." Eliza's face tightened. "You are going to fight Edgar." "I am going to do what your father asked me to do. Protect you." Eliza was quiet. Then, "Mr. Hollowell, last time someone tried to help us." She stopped. "I know. The Hendersons. Their barn burned." Jessie pulled on his gloves. "I ain't the Hendersons, Eliza. I have been ranching this land for 20 years. I know every man in this territory. And I do not scare easy." Eliza looked at him, wanting to believe, afraid to. "Come back," she said. "Please. I will be back before dark, I promise." He rode into Elkhorn Creek under a sky that could not decide between snow and sun. The town was small. One main street, a general store, a saloon, the bank, the church, the courthouse. Maybe 300 people in a good year. Father Patrick O'Brien was in the rectory, 62 years old, white hair, kind eyes, the kind of priest who listened more than he preached. Jessie told him everything. The girls, the letter, the bruises, Edgar. O'Brien sat quiet for a long time when Jessie finished. His hands folded, his eyes on the cross above the door. "You believe the child?" he said. "I believe the bruises on a 3-year-old's arms. I believe the belt marks on a 9-year-old's back. I believe cigar burns do not happen by accident. And the murder? The mine? That is what the proof in the well is for. But first, I need to know something, Father. Is Edgar Prescott connected to anyone in this town? Anyone with power?" O'Brien's face changed, became careful. "Jessie, Edgar holds notes on the bank, the general store, and the livery. He has donated to the church for 10 years. He and Marshal Dunning are close, very close. And Judge Whitaker in Cheyenne, the one who handles custody cases." O'Brien paused. "I have heard things. Nothing I can prove. But the word is that Whitaker and Edgar have an arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" "The kind where the judge rules the way the banker wants, and the banker makes sure the judge's gambling debts disappear." Jessie felt the cold again. The same cold from last night. Not weather. Something worse. "So if Edgar files for custody and I fight it, the judge is already bought. That is what I am telling you." O'Brien leaned forward. "Jessie, I am on your side. God knows those children need protecting. But you need to understand what you are walking into. Edgar Prescott is not just a man. He is a system. He has the law. He has the money. He has the connections. You have a ranch and a good heart. And in my experience, a good heart loses to a crooked system 9 times out of 10. Then I will be the 10th time." O'Brien studied him, then smiled. Sad. "Your brother was the same way. Stubborn to the bone. You knew Samuel?" "He came to me once, years ago, before he died. Sat right where you were sitting. Told me he had done something unforgivable, and asked if God could still love him." "What did you tell him?" "I told him God's love was not the problem. The problem was whether he could love himself enough to ask for help." Did he ask? No. O'Brien's voice was quiet. He left, and 6 months later he was dead. Do not make his mistake, Jesse. Do not try to do this alone. Jesse rode back to the ranch as the sun was going down. Orange light on white snow. Beautiful. He did not notice. He found Eliza on the porch, waiting. She stood when she saw him, her whole body tense until she confirmed it was him and not someone else. "You came back," she said. "Told you I would." Inside, the house was warm. Bertie was awake, sitting in Lola's lap by the fire, color in her face, eyes brighter, still sick but fighting. When Jessie walked in, Bertie looked at him, reached out her arms. "Papa!" "Up." Jessie looked at Lola. Lola shrugged. She knows what she wants. Jessie picked Bertie up. She weighed nothing. She put her head on his shoulder, curled her fist into his collar, sighed. The sigh of a child who had found the thing she was looking for and intended to keep it. Jessie's throat closed. He held her, did not speak, could not. Eliza watched from the doorway, her face unreadable. That night, after the girls were in bed, Jessie sat in his study. The letter on the desk, the fire burning low, a glass of whiskey he had not touched. There was a knock, soft. Jessie looked up. Hannah stood in the doorway. First time she had come to him on her own. First time she had gone anywhere without Eliza. She was holding a piece of paper. She walked to his desk, set it down in front of him, looked at him with those brown eyes, then turned and left without a word. Jessie looked at the drawing. It was different from the others. No man with a belt, no children in a corner. This one showed a house, snow on the roof, smoke from the chimney, and in the window, 4 figures, 3 small, 1 tall. The tall one was holding the smallest one, and they were all together, all safe, all inside where the cold could not reach them. At the bottom, in shaky, childish letters, Hannah had written 2 words. Our house. Jessie stared at it until the fire died to embers, until the whiskey went warm, until the tears he did not want to cry came anyway and fell on the paper and smudged the charcoal just a little. He wiped his eyes, folded the drawing carefully, put it in his pocket next to the letter from Samuel. 2 pieces of paper, one from a dead brother asking him to fight, one from a silent child asking him to stay. He was going to do both. The next morning, Jessie woke early, dressed, found Lola in the kitchen. "I need you to watch the girls today. I am riding to the old homestead, the well." Lola set down her coffee. "You are going for the proof." "I am going for whatever Samuel hid, if Edgar comes while I am gone." "He will not come today, too soon. A man like Edgar plans. He does not rush." "How do you know?" "Because I grew up with men like Edgar, Mr. Hollowell. They are all the same. They take their time. They build their case. They make sure everyone is looking the other way before they strike." She paused. "You have a week, maybe 2. Use it." Jessie nodded, walked to the guest room. Eliza was already awake, already dressed, already braiding Hannah's hair. "I am riding out today," Jessie said. "I will be back by nightfall." "The homestead?" "Yeah." Eliza's hand stopped mid-braid. "Be careful. Papa said he set traps around the well, to keep people out." "What kind of traps?" "The kind that hurt." Jessie knelt down, looked at her. "Anything else I should know?" Eliza thought. Then, the 3rd stone from the waterline, north side, Papa said you have to pull it straight out. Do not twist it, or the box will fall into the water and the documents will be ruined." "Smart man, your father." "He was." Eliza's voice cracked, just enough to show the grief she kept buried under all that armor. "He was the smartest man I ever knew." And it was not enough to save him. Jesse put his hand on her shoulder, left it there for 3 seconds, then stood. "I will be back before dark." "You keep saying that." "Because I keep meaning it." He walked out, got on his horse, rode toward the old Colton homestead 4 hours west. The sky was clearing, first blue in days. Cold enough to freeze spit before it hit the ground, but at least the wind had stopped. He rode and thought about Edgar Prescott, about crooked judges and bought marshals, about a system built to protect men with money and crush everyone else. He thought about Samuel, about the boy who followed him everywhere, about the man who drove a broken wagon down a mountain road because he knew it was the only way to lead danger away from his children. He thought about Rosie, about how he had failed her, how the fever came and he could not stop it, and all his strength and all his land and all his money meant nothing because his daughter was dead and he could not fix it. He thought about Birdie, about the way she said "Papa," about the way she curled her fist into his collar like she was holding on to the edge of the world. He thought about Hannah, about a 6-year-old who stopped talking because words had become dangerous, who drew pictures instead because pictures could tell the truth without getting you hit. He thought about Eliza, 9 years old, carrying everything, sleeping with a knife under her pillow, protecting her sisters with a ferocity that would put most grown men to shame. 3 girls, his brother's daughters, sent to him through a blizzard with a dead man's letter and 6 months of bruises and a single desperate hope that he would be the man Samuel believed he was. Jesse gripped the reins, set his jaw, rode faster. He was going to get that proof. He was going to burn Edgar Prescott to the ground. And he was going to give those girls the one thing nobody had ever given them: a home. A real one. The kind where nobody hit you, nobody burned you, nobody locked you in the dark. The kind where you could sleep without a knife and draw pictures without fear and say "Papa" to a man who would rather die than let anyone hurt you again. The homestead appeared on the horizon, burned timbers, scorched earth, and in the middle of the wreckage, standing untouched, the stone well. Jesse dismounted, walked toward it. His brother's grave and his brother's gift, both waiting in the same place. He started to climb down. The rope burned his palms on the way down. 20 feet of darkness, the temperature dropping with every foot. By the time Jesse's boots hit water, his teeth were chattering and his fingers were going numb. Knee-deep. Freezing. The kind of cold that reached into your bones and squeezed. He struck a match. Light bloomed against circular stone walls. Water black as ink. His own breath coming back at him in white clouds. 3rd stone from the waterline. North side. Do not twist it. Jesse found the stone, newer than the others, mortar around it fresher. He pulled his knife, worked the blade into the gap. Careful. Steady. The way you pulled a calf from a breech birth. Force enough to move it, not enough to break it. The stone came free. Behind it, a metal box sealed with wax. Waterproof. Heavy for its size. Jesse grabbed it, tucked it inside his coat, and climbed. Halfway up, his boot slipped. The rope jerked. His shoulder wrenched hard, and he swung into the wall. Stone bit into his ribs. He held on, climbed. did not stop until blue sky hit his face, and cold air that felt warm compared to the well filled his lungs. He sat on the frozen ground, breathing hard, the box in his lap. His brother's last secret. He broke the wax seal, opened it. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were documents, photographs, a leather journal, and pressed between the pages, dried wildflowers, purple and yellow, the kind that grew in the high meadows in summer, the kind Catherine used to pick before she died. Jesse's hands shook. He opened the journal first. Samuel's handwriting, page after page, dates, names, details, every death at the Whitefish mine, recorded with the precision of a man who knew he was building a case that might cost him his life. 12 men dead between 1877 and 1883. All ruled accidents. All signed off by the mine foreman, Jacob Dunning. Jesse stopped breathing. Read the name again. Jacob Dunning. Marshall Wade Dunning's brother. The marshal of Elkhorn Creek. The man who wore a badge and kept the peace and was supposed to protect people like Eliza and Hannah and Bertie. His brother was the one who covered up 12 murders. Jesse kept reading. The mine was owned by a shell company called Western Range Holdings. Samuel had traced the real ownership through territorial records. 3 names: Jacob Dunning, Edgar Prescott, and Judge Arthur Whitaker. The same judge who handled custody cases. The same judge O'Brien said was in Edgar's pocket. Not in his pocket, his partner, his co-owner. A man who would decide whether Jesse kept the girls, and that man had helped kill their father. Jesse closed the journal, put everything back in the box, sealed it. He rode back hard. 4 hours felt like 40. Every mile, the weight of what he carried got heavier. Not the box, the knowledge, the understanding of exactly what he was up against. Not one man, a system, a machine built from money and law and the kind of corruption that smiled at you in church on Sunday. He reached the ranch at dusk. Lola was on the porch, arms crossed, face worried. "Something happened," she said before he dismounted. "What?" "Marshal Dunning came by 2 hours ago, had papers." Jesse's gut went cold. "What kind of papers?" "Welfare check, same as the script. Edgar Prescott filed a complaint. Says 3 minor children are missing from his custody, and he has reason to believe they are here." Lola's voice was steady, but her eyes were not. "The marshal talked to Eliza." Jesse was off the horse before Lola finished the sentence. "Where is she?" "Kitchen. She is fine. She handled it." Lola paused. "Better than I would have. Better than most grown women would have." Jesse walked inside, found Eliza at the kitchen table, Hannah beside her drawing, Bertie in a chair wrapped in blankets, awake, eating bread that Lola had torn into small pieces. Eliza looked up when Jesse walked in. Her face was white, but her eyes were steady. "The marshal asked me questions," she said. "I told him what he needed to hear." "What did you tell him?" "That we are here because we want to be. That Uncle Edgar gets angry sometimes. That we do not want to go back." She paused. He wrote it all down. Then he said, "Uncle Edgar has filed for a formal custody hearing. Judge Whitaker will come from Cheyenne in 6 weeks to decide." 6 weeks, February 28th. Eliza's voice did not waver. "The marshal said you need to establish legal standing by then, or the judge will give us back to Edgar." Jesse sat down across from her. Put the box on the table. Eliza stared at it. "You found it. I found it. And Eliza, it is worse than your father wrote. The mine, the deaths, Edgar is not just a guardian who hit you. He is part of something bigger. The marshal's brother ran the mine. The judge who will decide your custody is Edgar's business partner. They are all connected. Eliza did not flinch, did not cry. Just nodded like she was receiving information she had always expected. Papa said it went high, said the law was bought. That is why he ran instead of reporting it. She looked at the box. Is there enough to stop them? Enough to prove what happened at the mine? Enough to prove Edgar killed your father? But none of it matters if the judge who hears it is the same man who profits from the mine. So what do? We go around the judge. We go over him. We take this to people who cannot be bought. Who? Jesse thought about Father O'Brien, about the church records, about the one institution in the territory that Edgar could not own. I need to think on it. But first, I need to ask you something. And I need the truth. All of it. Eliza met his eyes. Ask. Your father's letter said Hannah stopped talking because of what Edgar did. What exactly did Edgar do? Eliza's jaw locked. She looked at Hannah. The 6-year-old was drawing, lost in it, not listening, or maybe listening to everything but unable to respond. He locked her in the root cellar, Eliza said. 3 days, no food, no light. She was screaming the first day, crying the second. By the 3rd day, she was quiet. She has not spoken since. Jesse felt the rage come, familiar, volcanic. His father's legacy. The anger that lived in his blood and waited for exactly these moments to remind him what he was made of. He closed his eyes, breathed. 1 breath, 2, 3. When he opened them, Eliza was watching him, studying him the way she studied everything, looking for the danger. You are angry, she said. Yes. Are you going to hit something? No. Papa used to get angry like that. His face would change, but he never hit us. Not once. She paused. Is that what your father did? Hit people when he got angry? Jesse looked at this 9-year-old girl who saw everything and understood more than most adults. Yes, that is what he did. And you are afraid you will become him every day of my life. Eliza nodded, like the answer satisfied her, like it was the right answer, the honest one. Papa said the same thing, said your father was a cruel man and both of you spent your whole lives trying not to be him. She reached across the table, put her small hand on the box. Papa won. He never hit anyone. He never became your father. She looked at Jesse. You can win too. Jesse stared at this child, this impossibly brave, impossibly wise, impossibly damaged child, who had walked through a blizzard with 2 sisters and a dead man's letter, and still had enough left inside her to comfort a grown man about his own demons. How old are you? He asked. 9. You talk like you were 90. That is what happens when you grow up fast, Mr. Hollowell. You skip the middle parts. The next 2 weeks moved fast. Jesse sent word to a lawyer in Cheyenne. Young man named David Hart, fresh out of law school, hungry for a case that mattered. Hart arrived on a Tuesday, read the documents from the well, and nearly fell out of his chair. This is enough to bring down the mine, the judge, and the marshal, Hart said. This is dynamite. Can you use it in a custody hearing? Hart shook his head. Not directly. A custody hearing is about the welfare of the children, not criminal charges. But if we can expose the judge's conflict of interest, get him removed from the case, get a fair judge in his place, then yes. Edgar loses everything. How do we get the judge removed? We need someone with authority to challenge him. A federal marshal, a territorial governor's office, someone Edgar cannot touch. Jesse thought about it. Thought about who he knew, who owed him, who had enough power to fight a corrupt system and enough backbone to actually do it. Clara Whitfield, he said. Hart looked confused. Who? Clara June Whitfield, town nurse, midwife, widow. She has delivered half the babies in this territory. She treated miners' wives for years. She knows what happened at that mine because she saw the aftermath. The widows, the children left behind. A nurse is not exactly a federal authority. No. But Clara Whitfield's late husband was Territorial Senator Thomas Whitfield. She still has connections in the governor's office, and she owes me a favor. Hart raised an eyebrow. Must be a hell of a favor. I saved her son's life during a cattle drive in '83. Pulled him out from under a stampede. She told me if I ever needed anything, she would move heaven and hell. I think we need both, Hart said. Jesse rode to Clara's house the next morning. She lived on the edge of town. Small house. Clean. Garden even in winter. The kind of woman who made things grow whether the ground wanted to cooperate or not. She opened the door before he knocked. 42 years old. Dark hair streaked with gray. Eyes that missed nothing and forgave less. Jesse Hollowell.
I have been wondering when you would show up. Whole town is talking about you and those girls. Can I come in? You had better. I have coffee and questions, and I am not sure which one is stronger. They sat at her kitchen table. Jesse told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she stood, walked to a cabinet, pulled out a wooden box, set it on the table. I have been collecting these for 8 years, she said. Opened the box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, written by miners' wives, by widows, by women who had lost husbands at the Whitefish mine and been paid pennies to keep quiet. Every woman who came to me after her husband died at that mine, Clara said. I asked them to write down what happened, what they were told, what they were paid, how much they were threatened. She paused. 12 women, 12 dead husbands, 12 stories that nobody wanted to hear. Jesse stared at the letters. Why did you keep these? Because somebody had to. Because those women deserved a witness, even if nobody was listening. She looked at Jesse. And because I knew someday someone would come along who was stubborn enough to fight. She sat back down. What do you need from me? I need you to contact the governor's office. Get Judge Whitaker removed from the custody hearing. Get a fair judge assigned. Clara nodded. I can do that. Thomas had friends in the governor's mansion. Good men, honest men. But Jesse, she leaned forward. It will take time, and Edgar will not wait quietly. The moment he finds out someone is challenging his judge, he will move fast. He will come for those girls. Let him come. Clara shook her head. That is not enough. You need the town behind you, not just me, not just Father O'Brien. You need people who will stand up in court and say those children belong with you. You need witnesses to the abuse. You need the doctor to testify about the bruises. We do not have a doctor. We have you. Then I will testify. Clara's voice went hard. I will testify about every bruise on those children's bodies, about the cigar burns on Eliza's arm, about the malnutrition, about Hannah's silence. She paused. And I will testify about what I saw when Edgar brought Bertie to me last September with a broken wrist and told me she fell off a porch. Jesse went still. A broken wrist? She was 2 years old, Jesse. 2-year-olds do not break their wrists falling off porches.
Not the way that wrist was broken. It was twisted. Taut. The kind of break that happens when someone grabs a child's arm and yanks. You knew. You knew and you did not report it. Clara's face crumbled, just for a moment, just long enough to show the guilt underneath. I told the marshal. I filed a report. Dunning buried it, told me I was overreacting, told me Edgar was a respected man and I should mind my own business. She wiped her eyes. I have lived with that every day since. Wondering if I should have done more. Wondering if those children were suffering because I was not brave enough to push harder. You are pushing now. Yes, I am. And I will not stop until those girls are safe. Jesse rode back to the ranch feeling something he had not felt in years. Not hope exactly. Something harder than hope. Determination. The kind that came from knowing you were outgunned and outmanned and choosing to fight anyway. He found Eliza in the stable. She was brushing the mare. The same horse Jesse had ridden through the blizzard the night he found them. Eliza had taken to the animal immediately. Spent an hour every day with her. You like horses, Jesse said. Papa had a horse, bay mare named Penny. Edgar sold her after Papa died. Eliza's voice was flat. I watched him lead her away. Bertie cried for 3 days. Jesse leaned against the stall door. I talked to someone today. A woman named Clara Whitfield. She is going to help us. How? She has connections to the governor's office. She is going to try to get the judge removed, get a fair hearing. Eliza stopped brushing, looked at Jesse. And if she cannot? If the judge stays? Then we fight anyway, with everything we have. Eliza was quiet for a moment. Mr. Hollowell, there is something else I have not told you. Jesse waited. Papa did not just hide documents in that well. He hid something else. Something he told me about the night before he died. What? Eliza set down the brush. Her hands were shaking. Papa said that when he worked at the mine, there was another man who saw the killing. Another witness. A man who ran just like Papa did. Changed his name. Disappeared. She paused. Papa said if we ever needed help, if the documents were not enough, this man could testify. Could stand in a courtroom and say what he saw with his own eyes. Who is he? Eliza looked at Jesse. His name was Daniel. Daniel Hargrove. But that is not his real name. Eliza swallowed. Papa said his real name was Nathan Hollowell. Jesse did not move, did not breathe. The stable went silent. Even the horses stopped shifting. Nathan Hollowell. His father's name. His grandfather's name. A family name passed down through generations like a scar. I do not know anyone named Nathan Hollowell, Jesse said. His voice came from somewhere far away. Papa said you would say that. He said you would not know him because he has been hiding for 9 years, living under a different name in British Columbia. But Papa said Nathan was family. Eliza paused. Papa said Nathan was your cousin, your uncle's son, the one everyone thought died in the war. Jesse grabbed the stall door, his knuckles white. Matthew's boy. Uncle Matthew's son. Nathan. The cousin Jesse had grown up with. The cousin who went to fight in '63 and never came back. The family had mourned him, put up a stone, said prayers, and he was alive, hiding, running from the same men who killed Samuel. Where in British Columbia? A town called Whitefish, near the border. Papa wrote to him, told him everything, said if Samuel ever died, Nathan should come to you. Eliza's voice dropped. Papa said Nathan has been waiting for someone to fight back. He just needed to know it was safe. Jesse closed his eyes, felt the weight of it settle. His brother murdered, his cousin alive. a mine full of dead men, a judge on the take, a banker who beat children, and 3 little girls standing in the middle of all of it. He opened his eyes, looked at Eliza. "Is there anything else? Anything else your father told you that you have not said?" Eliza met his gaze. "One more thing. Tell me." "Papa said Edgar did not just kill him for the mine documents. He said Edgar killed him because Papa found out something else. Something about Edgar's money. The bank." She paused. "Papa said Edgar has been stealing from orphan estates for years. Every child who lost parents in this territory, Edgar took their inheritance. Used it to fund the mine. Used it to pay off the judge. Used it to build his whole empire." Jesse felt sick, physically sick. A man who stole from orphans, who beat children, who killed a father, and the law protected him because the law was part of it. How much? Papa said thousands, maybe tens of thousands, stolen from families who had nothing left. Eliza's chin trembled. Papa said some of those families starved. Children sent to workhouses because the money their parents left them was gone. And Edgar sat in his bank and smiled. Jesse pulled Eliza close. She did not resist. For the first time since she had arrived, she let herself be held. Let herself be small. Let the armor drop long enough to feel the grief she had been carrying for 6 months. She did not cry. Not yet. That would come later. For now, she just stood there, face pressed against Jesse's chest, shaking. "I am tired, Mr. Hollowell. I know. I am tired of being brave." "Then stop, just for a minute. I've got you." She shook for a while. Then the shaking stopped. She pulled back, wiped her face with her sleeve, looked up at him with those old eyes and that young face. "You are going to write to Nathan," she said, "tonight. And you are going to get Clara to remove the judge. Already working on it. And you are going to take those documents and burn Edgar Prescott's life to the ground, every last piece of it." Eliza nodded. "Good." She picked up the brush, went back to the horse, her hands steady now, her back straight. "Mr. Hollowell?" "Yeah?" Eliza did not turn around, just kept brushing, her voice quiet but clear. "Papa was right about you. You are a good man." Jesse stood in the stable doorway. The evening light was fading. Inside the house, he could hear Lola singing something in Spanish. Could hear Bertie laughing. First time he had heard that child laugh. Small and bright and startled, like she had surprised herself by remembering how. And somewhere in the house, Hannah was drawing. Drawing a world she could not speak about. A world that had hurt her in ways no child should be hurt. But also drawing a house with smoke from the chimney and 4 figures in the window, and 2 words at the bottom that meant more than any legal document or court testimony or hidden proof. Our house. Jesse turned away from the stable, walked toward the laughter, toward the warmth, toward the fight that was coming and the family that was already here. He had 6 weeks, a box full of a dead man's evidence, a nurse with connections, a priest with courage, a lawyer with hunger, and 3 little girls who would walk through a blizzard because their father believed Jesse was worth walking to. He was going to prove Samuel right. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of building something that felt like a life, while knowing it could be torn apart in a courtroom on February 28th. Bertie got better. Her fever broke on day 5. By day 10, she was walking. By day 15, she was running through the house with an energy that exhausted everyone except Lola, who had raised enough children to know that a toddler recovering from pneumonia would either sleep or destroy everything in reach. She followed Jesse everywhere. Into the barn, into the yard, into his study where she sat on his lap while he worked the books and grabbed at his pen and left ink marks on the ledger that Eliza would later scold her for. She called him Papa every time. Jesse had stopped correcting her, had stopped flinching when she said it, had started answering to it without thinking, the way you answered to your own name because it was yours whether you chose it or not. Hannah still did not speak, but she drew, every day, stacks of pictures that Lola collected and kept in a box in the kitchen. Some were dark: the man with the belt, the cellar with no light, a small girl alone in the dark with her hands over her ears. But more and more the pictures changed. Horses, the kitchen, Lola making bread, Birdie laughing, and always, always, the house with 4 figures in the window. Eliza worked the ranch like she had been born to it. She could rope a fence post from 20 feet, could saddle a horse without help, could read the sky for weather the way some children read books. She was fierce and capable and still sleeping with a knife under her pillow every single night. Jesse did not take it from her, understood why she needed it, understood that safety was not something you believed in because someone told you to. It was something you earned, one night at a time. The letter to Nathan Hollowell went out the 2nd week. Father O'Brien sent it by telegram to Whitefish, British Columbia. Short, careful, the kind of message that said everything by saying almost nothing. Family in Wyoming needs your help. Samuel sent us. Come if you can. Jesse. No response came. Not the 1st week, not the 2nd. Jesse told himself it did not matter. Told himself the case was strong enough without a witness from Canada. Told himself he was not disappointed. He was lying. Clara Whitfield worked fast. 2 letters to the governor's office, a personal visit to the territorial capital. She came back on a Thursday, dusty and tired, and smiling for the first time since Jesse had known her. Judge Whitaker has been removed from the case, she said. They sat in Jesse's kitchen. Lola poured coffee. Eliza stood in the doorway listening. She listens to everything, Jesse had learned, misses nothing. The governor's office reviewed the conflict of interest. Whitaker owns a stake in the same mine that is connected to Edgar Prescott. They cannot let him rule on the custody case involving Edgar's wards. A new judge has been assigned. Clara paused. Margaret Harlow, out of Helena. A woman? Jesse asked. A woman. First female judge in the territory. Appointed 6 months ago. She has a reputation for fairness and an absolute hatred for corruption. Clara smiled. Edgar Prescott has no idea what is coming. Jesse felt something loosen in his chest. A knot he had been carrying for weeks. What about Edgar? Does he know? He will find out when he walks into that courtroom. And by then, it will be too late to buy his way out. Eliza spoke from the doorway. He will try something else. He always does. Clara looked at the girl. You are right. He will. Which is why we need to be ready for anything. That night, Jesse could not sleep. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 3 days until the hearing. 3 days until a judge he had never met decided whether 3 girls he had known for 6 weeks would stay or be sent back to a man who burned them with cigars and locked them in cellars. A knock at his door. Soft. Come in. Eliza, standing in the doorway in her nightgown, barefoot, looking younger than she had since the night she arrived. Cannot sleep either, she said. No, ma'am. She came in, sat on the edge of his bed, drew her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. Mr. Hollowell, if we lose, if the judge says we have to go back, we are not going to lose. But if we do, Eliza's voice was steady. I need you to know that I will run again. I will take Hannah and Bertie and I will run. I will not let him hurt them any more. I would rather die in a blizzard than go back to that house. Jessie sat up, looked at her. This child who had been carrying the weight of 2 lives on her shoulders for 6 months, who had not slept a full night since June, who was 9 years old and already making plans for what to do if every adult in her life failed her again. Listen to me, Eliza. I am not going to let that happen. But if somehow it does, if somehow the whole world goes wrong and the law fails us, then I will put you and your sisters on a horse, and we will ride, together. I am not sending you out into the cold alone again. You hear me? Eliza stared at him. Her chin trembled. You mean that? I mean it. Even if it means breaking the law? Even if they come after you? Even then. She was quiet for a long time. Then she leaned against his shoulder, small, warm, trusting in a way she had not been since the first night. Papa would have liked you, she whispered. I would have liked him too. Should have told him that when I had the chance. They sat in silence. The house creaked around them, wind against the windows, fire dying in the other room. You should sleep, Jessie said. So should you. I will sleep when this is over. Eliza smiled, small, sad. You sound like me. She went back to her room. Jessie heard the door close, heard the bedspring shift, heard nothing else. He hoped she was sleeping, hoped the knife was still under the pillow, but her hand was not on it. The morning of the hearing came cold and bright, February 28th. The kind of day that hurt to breathe, but was so clear you could see 50 miles in every direction. Jessie dressed in his best clothes, clean shirt, good boots, the coat Catherine had given him the Christmas before she died. He had not worn it in 4 years. It still smelled like cedar from the chest where Lola kept it. The girls were ready. Lola had sewn new dresses. Eliza's was blue. Hannah's was yellow. Bertie's was white with small flowers that Lola had embroidered by hand, working late every night for 2 weeks. They looked like children, not refugees, not runaways. Children who were cared for, loved, whole. Eliza came to Jessie in the kitchen. Her hair was braided. Her back was straight. She looked like a soldier going to war. Ready? Jessie asked. No, but let us go anyway. They rode into town, all of them, Jessie and Eliza on horseback. Lola in the wagon with Hannah and Bertie. The morning was still. No wind. No sound except hooves on frozen ground. The courthouse was already full when they arrived. 60 people packed into a room built for 30. Standing room only. The whole town come to watch. Jessie saw faces he knew. Miguel, his head ranch hand, standing in the back with his hat in his hands. Rosa Chen from the general store, who had brought fabric for the girls' dresses and refused payment. Jenkins, the blacksmith, who had fixed Jessie's gate latch the week before and told him, quiet, man to man, that he was doing the right thing. And on the other side, Edgar Prescott, sitting at the petitioner's table, alone, well-dressed, clean-shaven, the face of a man who had never done wrong. He looked at Jessie when they entered, smiled, the same smile he used when he approved your loan, the same smile he used when he foreclosed on your house. Beside him, Marshal Wade Dunning sat in the front row, badge polished, face blank. The law, bought and paid for. Jessie took his seat, heart beside him, Eliza behind him with Lola and the girls. He could feel Eliza's eyes on the back of his neck, could feel her fear, could feel her trying to be brave. "All rise." They stood. The door behind the bench opened. Judge Margaret Harlow entered. 55 years old, gray hair pulled back, face that gave nothing away. She sat down, looked at the courtroom, took it in with one sweep. Edgar's smile faltered. Jesse saw it. Just a flicker. Just a half-second of confusion. He had expected Whitaker, had planned for Whitaker, had bought Whitaker. He had not planned for this. "Be seated," Harlow said. Her voice carried without effort. "We are here on the matter of custody and guardianship of 3 minor children, Eliza May Colton, Hannah Grace Colton, and Birdie Colton." She looked at Edgar. "Mr. Prescott, you are the petitioner. You may begin." Edgar stood, smooth, composed, the smile back in place. "Your Honor, I am the legal guardian of these 3 children, appointed by their late father's will. They have been missing from my care for 6 weeks. I have reason to believe they are being held unlawfully by Mr. Jesse Hollowell." "Held," Harlow repeated, the word flat. "You are suggesting he is holding them against their will?" "I am suggesting, Your Honor, that a single man, with no wife, no female relative, and no legal claim, has taken custody of 3 young girls without authority or oversight." Edgar's voice was smooth, practiced, reasonable. Whatever his intentions, the arrangement is improper. Hart stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Hollowell is not holding these children. They came to him, in a blizzard, half dead, fleeing abuse at the hands of Mr. Prescott." "Objection!" Edgar's voice sharpened. "That is a serious accusation without evidence." Harlow looked at Hart. "Do you have evidence, Counselor?" "We do, Your Honor." Hart opened his satchel. Medical testimony, witness statements, and documentation of injuries sustained by all 3 children while in Mr. Prescott's care. Hart called Clara Whitfield first. Clara walked to the stand, sat down, looked at Edgar with steady eyes. "Mrs. Whitfield, you examined the children?" "I did, 3 times since their arrival at Mr. Hollowell's ranch." Clara's voice was clear, clinical, the voice of a woman who had delivered babies and set bones and told mothers their children would not survive the night. "Eliza Colton has bruising consistent with belt strikes on her back and upper arms. She has 3 circular burn scars on her left forearm. Cigar burns, deliberate. Hannah Colton has similar belt marks, older, layered, indicating repeated abuse over months. And Birdie Colton." Clara paused. "Birdie Colton has evidence of a previously broken left wrist, healed improperly, consistent with the wrist being grabbed and twisted by an adult hand." The courtroom murmured. Harlow's gavel came down once. "You examined Birdie's wrist previously, Mrs. Whitfield?" "Last September. Mr. Prescott brought her to me. Said she fell off the porch. I filed a report with the marshal's office." Clara looked at Dunning. The report was never acted upon. Dunning's face went red. He shifted in his seat, said nothing. Edgar stood. "Your Honor, children fall. They bruise. Mrs. Whitfield is not a doctor. She is a midwife with an overactive imagination." Harlow looked at him. "Sit down, Mr. Prescott. You will have your turn." Hart called Eliza next. The girl walked to the stand, small in the witness chair, feet not touching the floor. But her back was straight and her eyes were clear. "Eliza," Hart said gently, "can you tell the court about your time living with Mr. Prescott?" Eliza looked at Edgar. He smiled at her, the kind of smile that was a warning, She looked away from him, looked at Jesse. Jesse nodded. "Uncle Edgar hit us," Eliza said. Her voice did not shake. "With his belt, mostly. Sometimes his hand. He burned me with his cigar 3 times. He locked Hannah in the root cellar for 3 days because she spilled milk on his desk. When she came out, she was not talking anymore. She has not talked since." The courtroom was silent. Harlow was writing, her face unreadable. Eliza continued. "He did not feed us some days. Said we had to earn our meals. Bertie was always hungry. She cried a lot, and that made him angrier. One night he grabbed her arm and twisted it. I heard the bone crack." She paused. "That was the night I decided we had to leave." Edgar stood again. "Your Honor, this child has been coached. Clearly coached by Mr. Hollowell to support his illegal claim." Harlow's eyes went cold. "Mr. Prescott, if you interrupt testimony one more time, I will hold you in contempt. Sit down." Edgar sat. His smile was gone. Eliza was not finished. "My father told me before he died to find Mr. Hollowell. Said he was family. Said he was the only person in the world who could keep us safe." She reached into her pocket, pulled out Samuel's letter. "Papa wrote this. It explains everything. Who Edgar really is. What he did. Why we had to run." Hart took the letter, handed it to the judge. Harlow read it, slowly, her face changing as she read, from neutral to focused to something harder. She set the letter down, looked at Edgar. "Mr. Prescott, this letter makes serious allegations, including that you were directly involved in the death of these children's father." "Lies," Edgar said. "The ramblings of a paranoid man who died in a wagon accident." Hart stood. "Your Honor, we have additional evidence." He pulled out the journal from the well, documents recovered from a hiding place left by Samuel Colton before his death. These documents detail the operations of the Whitefish Mine in British Columbia, including 12 deaths ruled as accidents, and the involvement of Mr. Prescott, Marshall Wade Dunning's brother, Jacob Dunning, and former presiding judge Arthur Whitaker as co-owners of the mine. The courtroom exploded. Voices shouting, Dunning on his feet, Edgar's face going white. Harlow's gavel came down, hard, 3 times. "Order! I will have order, or I will clear this courtroom." Silence fell, heavy, loaded. Harlow looked at the documents, took her time, read every page. The courtroom waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nobody moved. Finally, she looked up. Marshall Dunning approached the bench. Dunning walked forward, stiff, his hand near his holster. "These documents indicate your brother was the foreman at a mine connected to Mr. Prescott. A mine where 12 men died under suspicious circumstances. Is your brother Jacob Dunning?" Dunning's jaw worked. "I decline to answer, Your Honor." "This is not a criminal trial, Marshal. I am asking you a direct question. Is Jacob Dunning your brother?" "Yes, ma'am, he is." "And did you bury a report filed by Mrs. Whitfield regarding injuries to the child Bertie Colton?" Dunning looked at Edgar. Edgar looked at the table. "I may have lost the paperwork," Dunning said. Harlow stared at him. "Remove your badge, Marshal. You are suspended, pending investigation." She turned to the bailiff. "Detain Mr. Dunning. He is not to leave this building." 2 men moved forward. Dunning did not fight, just stood there as they took his badge, his gun, his authority, everything that had made him untouchable. Edgar stood, slowly, the composure cracking, cracks spreading across that respectable face like ice breaking on a spring pond. "Your Honor, I would like to address the court." "You may." Edgar looked around the courtroom, at the faces watching him, at the town he had owned for a decade, at the people who had trusted him with their money and their children and their futures. Then he looked at Eliza, at Hannah clutching her drawings, at Bertie sitting in Lola's lap, at Jesse.
"I am not going to stand here and deny everything," Edgar said. His voice was different now, quieter, the charm stripped away. Underneath it was something tired and ugly and real. "I hit those children. I burned that girl. I locked the little one in the dark. I did all of it." The courtroom went dead silent. "I did it because I am a coward, because Samuel Colton found out what I was and I could not let him expose me. Because after he died, I had his children, and they knew too much, and I did not know what to do with them except make them afraid." Edgar's hands were shaking. "I stole from orphan estates, 6 families, $4,000. I used it to fund the mine, to pay off Whitaker, to keep the machine running." He looked at Jesse. "Your brother was a better man than I will ever be. He died because he had the courage to do what I never could. Tell the truth." Edgar turned back to the judge. "I withdraw my petition for custody. I surrender myself to the authority of this court, and I ask that these children be placed in the care of Jesse Hollowell. Not because the law says so, but because it is the first right thing I have done in 20 years. He sat down. The courtroom was silent. Someone in the back was crying. Rosa Chen, her hand over her mouth. Harlow was quiet for a long time, writing, thinking, the whole room hanging on her silence. Then she looked at Jesse. "Mr. Hollowell, stand." Jesse stood. "These children came to you in a blizzard. You took them in. You fed them. You protected them. You put your reputation, your safety, and your livelihood at risk for 3 girls who are not yours by blood." She paused. "Why?" Jesse looked at Eliza, at Hannah, at Bertie, who was reaching for him from Lola's lap, arms out, the word "Papa" forming on her lips. "Because somebody had to," he said, "and because my brother asked me to. And because," his voice cracked, "because I lost a daughter 4 years ago, and I swore I would never love another child again. And then 3 of them showed up at my gate, half dead, and proved me wrong." Harlow studied him. Then she nodded. "In the matter of Eliza May Colton, Hannah Grace Colton, and Bertie Colton, I am awarding full custody to Jesse Wade Hollowell, effective immediately." She brought the gavel down. "Furthermore, I am ordering a full criminal investigation into Edgar Prescott, the Whitefish Mine, and all associated parties." The gavel came down one final time. The courtroom erupted. Jesse turned. Eliza was running toward him. She hit him full force. Arms around his waist, face buried in his chest. Not crying. Not yet. Just holding on. Hannah stood behind her, still silent, still clutching her drawings. But she was looking at Jesse. And for the first time since he had known her, she was smiling. Lola brought Bertie forward. The baby reached for Jesse. He took her. She grabbed his collar with both hands and pressed her face into his neck. "Papa," she said. "Home." Jesse held them. All of them. Bertie in one arm, Eliza against his chest. Hannah close enough to touch.
Lola standing behind with tears running down her face and her rosary clicking softly at her waist. Clara Whitfield caught his eye from across the room. She nodded once. That was all. That was enough. Father O'Brien was praying, quietly, his lips moving, his eyes closed. And in the back of the courtroom, being led away by the bailiff, Edgar Prescott looked back one last time at the children he had hurt, at the man who had saved them, at the life he had destroyed, and the life he could never have. Then the door closed behind him, and he was gone. Jesse stood in the middle of the courtroom, holding a dead man's daughters and the word he thought he would never hear again, and felt something break open inside his chest. Not grief this time, not rage. Something else. Something he had forgotten existed. Eliza pulled back, looked up at him with those blue-gray eyes that saw everything. "We did it," she said. "We did."
Is it over? Jesse looked at her, at Hannah, at Bertie, at the family he had found in a blizzard and fought for in a courtroom, and would spend the rest of his life trying to deserve. "The hard part is over," he said. "The good part is just starting." Eliza smiled. Real. Full. The first real smile he had seen from her. It changed her whole face, made her look like what she was, a 9-year-old girl who had finally put down a weight she should never have been carrying. "Can we go home now?" Jesse pulled her close. "Yeah, we can go home." They walked out of the courthouse together, into the cold, into the bright, into a February morning that felt like the first day of something new. And for the first time since he buried his daughter in the hard ground behind the barn, Jesse Hollowell walked with his head up and his chest open and his arms full of children who called him Papa, and meant it. The ride home was quiet, not the heavy quiet of grief or fear, a different kind, the kind that came after something broke open and you did not know yet what shape the new thing would take. Bertie fell asleep in Jesse's arms before they reached the edge of town. Her fist curled in his collar, her breathing steady, the fever gone, the bruises fading. 3 years old and already learning that the world could be safe again. Hannah sat in the wagon with Lola. She was drawing. Of course she was drawing. But when Jesse looked back, he saw what she was making. Not the man with the belt. Not the cellar. Not the dark. She was drawing the courthouse, the judge, and Jesse standing in the middle, with 3 small figures around him. Eliza rode beside Jesse on the mare she had claimed as her own. Back straight, chin up, the wind in her hair. She looked like a different girl than the one who had stumbled into his gate 6 weeks ago. Same face, same eyes. But something underneath had shifted. The armor was still there, might always be there, but it was not locked so tight anymore. They reached the ranch gate. Jesse dismounted, handed Bertie to Lola, opened the latch. The iron did not stick this time. The hinges did not scream. Small thing, meaningless, but Jesse noticed it anyway. Eliza swung down from the mare, stood looking at the house. "Mr. Hollowell." "Yeah." "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask me anything, Eliza. You know that." She was quiet for a moment. The wind moved her hair. She pushed it back with a hand that was not shaking. "Are you going to change? Now that it is official? Now that the judge said, 'We are yours'? Are you going to become someone different?" Jesse looked at her, understood the question underneath the question. Every adult in her life had changed. Her father went from alive to dead. Her uncle went from guardian to monster. The marshal went from protector to predator. People changed.
People became what they were hiding. "I am going to try to be better," Jesse said. "Every day."
Some days I will fail, but I am not going to become someone else. I am going to be the man you met the night I pulled Bertie out of the snow. That man. Just trying to do the right thing and messing it up half the time. Eliza studied him, that long, measuring look she gave everyone. Then she nodded. "Good, because I like that man. He is not perfect, but he stays." She walked toward the house. Jesse watched her go. 9 years old, already wiser than most people got in a whole lifetime. The weeks after the hearing moved like water, fast in some places, slow in others, pooling in unexpected spots. Edgar Prescott went to trial in Cheyenne, pled guilty to embezzlement, guilty to child abuse, guilty to conspiracy in the death of Samuel Colton. The jury took 40 minutes. 12 years in territorial prison. He would die there. Everyone knew it. Edgar knew it too, accepted it with the same quiet he had shown in the courtroom. Jesse did not attend the trial, did not need to. Clara went. Father O'Brien went. Hart went and came back with the verdict, and a bottle of whiskey, and a handshake that said more than words. Marshall Dunning was stripped of his badge, charged as an accessory. His brother Jacob was arrested in British Columbia and extradited. The mine was shut down. The families of the 12 dead men were contacted. Restitution was ordered. Not enough, never enough, but something. Judge Whitaker resigned, lost his position, lost his reputation, lost everything except his freedom, which Jesse thought was wrong but could not change. Some men fell soft. That was the way of things. The town of Elkhorn Creek adjusted, the way small towns did. The gossip shifted from suspicion to admiration. The same people who had whispered about a bachelor keeping 3 girls now brought pies and offered to help with chores and told Jesse they had always known he was a good man. Jesse let them say it, did not believe most of it, but let them say it, because the girls needed to see that community could be kind, that people could choose the right side, even if they chose it late. Bertie grew fast, the way children grew when they were finally fed enough and held enough and told enough times that they were loved. She was talking more, full sentences, stringing words together like beads on a wire, most of them directed at Jesse. "Papa, look! Papa, come! Papa, hold me! Papa, the horse is big! Papa, Lola made cookies! Papa, I love you." That last one came on a Tuesday, ordinary morning. Jesse was lacing his boots. Bertie was on the floor, playing with wooden blocks Lola had carved. She looked up at him, smiled, said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I love you, Papa." Jesse's hands stopped on the laces. His vision blurred. He blinked hard. "I love you too, Bertie." She went back to her blocks. Conversation over. No big moment. No dramatic music. Just a 3-year-old telling a truth she had known for weeks and finally had the words for. Jesse finished lacing his boots, went to the kitchen, poured coffee, drank it standing at the window with tears running down his face and not a single reason to stop them. Lola found him there, looked at him, did not ask. "The coffee is too strong," Jesse said. "It is the same coffee I have been making for 20 years, Mr. Hollowell." "Must be the altitude, then." Lola smiled, patted his arm, went back to her bread. Hannah's silence held. Weeks turned to months, and still she did not speak. Jesse worried. Lola worried. Clara Whitfield came by weekly to check on her, and left each time with the same careful expression that said patience, but also said concern. Eliza did not worry, or if she did not show it. "Hannah will talk when she is ready," Eliza told Jesse. "You cannot rush her. She has been holding everything inside for so long,
She has to figure out how to let it out again. She paused. The drawings help. Look at them. Really look. Jesse did. Spread them out on his desk one evening. 47 drawings. He put them in order by date and saw what Eliza meant. The early ones were dark, heavy charcoal, angry lines. The man with a belt, the cellar, the broken wrist. Fear drawn in black on brown paper. But then they changed, gradually. The lines softened. Color appeared. Lola had given Hannah colored pencils, and the girl used them like she was discovering a new language. Green for the grass, blue for the sky, yellow for Bertie's hair, brown for the horses. And the figures changed too. The man with the belt disappeared around drawing 23, replaced by the tall figure with a cowboy hat. Jesse, standing between the small figures and whatever was outside the frame, shielding them, not with fists, with presence. The last drawing in the stack was different from all the others. Bigger, more detailed. Hannah had spent 3 days on it. It showed the ranch, the house, the barn, the fence line, and in the yard, 5 figures. Jesse, Eliza, Hannah herself, Bertie, and Lola. They were all holding hands. At the bottom, in letters that were getting steadier and more confident, Hannah had written 3 words. This is home. Jesse put the drawings back in order, put them in a box, put the box in the bottom drawer of his desk, the same drawer where he used to keep the whiskey. The whiskey was gone, had been gone since the night Bertie first called him Papa. He did not need it anymore. Had something better, something that filled the same space, but did not leave him empty in the morning. April came, and with it the first real thaw. Snow melted, creeks ran, the valley turned from white to brown to the first pale suggestion of green. The cattle that survived the winter were thin but alive. The ranch would recover. It would take time. Everything worth having took time. On a Saturday morning in mid-April, Jesse was fixing the fence on the north pasture. Eliza was with him. She held the posts while he drove the nails. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that came from people who had learned each other's rhythms. "Mr. Hollowell," Eliza said, "we have talked about this." "You can call me Jesse." "I know." Eliza drove a nail herself. Straight. True. Getting stronger every day. "But I like Mr. Hollowell. It feels right." She paused. "Maybe someday I will call you something else, when I am ready." Jesse understood, did not push. Someday was enough. Someday was a promise that there would be more time, more days, more fence posts to hold and nails to drive and silence to share. They were walking back to the house when Jesse saw the rider, coming up the road from town, moving steady, not fast, not slow. The pace of someone who had been traveling a long time and was almost where he needed to be. Jesse stopped. His hand went to his hip. Habit. He was not carrying a gun. Had not carried one since the girls came. Did not want weapons in a house with children. Eliza shaded her eyes. "Who is that?" "I do not know." The rider got closer. A man, 30s, dark hair, lean, dust on his coat from days of riding. He stopped his horse 20 feet from the gate, looked at Jesse, looked at Eliza, looked at the ranch. Then he took off his hat, and Jesse saw his face, the jaw, the eyes, the way he held himself, like looking into a mirror that showed you what you would have looked like if your life had gone different. Jesse could not speak. The man dismounted, slow, stood holding his hat in his hands, nervous, unsure. A grown man who looked like a boy waiting to be told he was in the right place. "I got your telegram," the man said. "Took me a while. Had to make sure it was safe to travel." He paused. "I am Nathan. Nathan Hollowell, though I have not used that name in 9 years." Jesse stared at his cousin, the boy he had grown up with,
The boy the family had mourned, the boy who was supposed to be dead and buried in Virginia, and was instead standing in Jesse's yard, alive, weathered, carrying 9 years of hiding in the lines around his eyes. "Nathan," Jesse said. The name felt strange and familiar at the same time, like a shirt you had not worn in years that still fit. Nathan looked at him. "Uncle Matthew used to say you were the most stubborn man in Wyoming. Said you would argue with a fence post and win." He was right. Nathan almost smiled. Then his face got serious. "I came because of Samuel, because of what he asked me to do. I was there, Jesse, at that mine. I saw what happened. Saw Dunning kill that man. Saw them bury it. I ran, just like Samuel. But I never stopped being afraid. You do not have to be afraid anymore. Dunning is in custody. Edgar is in prison. The mine is shut down." Nathan looked like a man who had been carrying a boulder uphill and was just told he could set it down. "It is really over?"
"It is really over." Nathan's chin dropped to his chest. His shoulders shook. He stood there in the yard, crying the way men cried when they had been strong too long and the strength was no longer needed. Jesse walked to him, put his hand on his cousin's shoulder, held it there, the way he had learned from Eliza. Not fixing, not talking, just present. After a while, Nathan wiped his face, looked at Eliza. This must be Samuel's girl. Eliza was watching Nathan the way she watched everyone. Measuring, calculating. But softer now, the edges less sharp. "I am Eliza. Papa talked about you. Said you were brave." Nathan laughed, wet, broken. "Brave. I have been hiding in Canada for 9 years. That is not brave." Eliza shrugged. "You came here. That is brave enough." Nathan looked at Jesse. "She is just like Samuel. Got that same way of making you feel like you could do anything. She gets that from her father. Come inside. You look like you have not eaten in a week." They sat around the kitchen table. All of them. Jesse, Nathan, Eliza, Lola, Bertie in Jesse's lap eating biscuit crumbs off his shirt, Hannah in the corner drawing. Nathan told his story. The mine, the murder, the 9 years of running, the small towns, the false names, the loneliness that ate you from the inside when you could not tell anyone who you really were or why you were afraid. He told it simply, without drama, the way men told hard stories when they were tired of carrying them. When he finished, Lola poured him more coffee. Eliza asked questions, smart ones, the kind a lawyer would ask. Nathan answered them all. "Will you testify?" Jesse asked. "In the trial against Dunning's brother? Will you tell a court what you saw?" Nathan was quiet for a long time, looking at the coffee in his hands, at the steam rising, at the kitchen, the warmth, the children. "Yes," he said, "I will testify. I am done hiding." He looked at Jesse. "Samuel died because he was brave enough to tell the truth. The least I can do is finish what he started." Jesse nodded, felt something settle inside him, a circle closing, a debt being paid. Not to the law, not to the dead. To Samuel, to the brother who had trusted him one last time and been right to trust. That night, after Nathan had been given a room and the girls were in bed and the house was quiet, Jesse sat on the porch. The sky was clear, Stars so thick they looked like spilled milk. The air still cold but not cruel. Not killing cold. Just cold enough to remind you that you were alive and breathing and here. Eliza came out, sat beside him. She had a blanket around her shoulders. Lola's blanket. The one that smelled like cinnamon and cedar. They sat without speaking. Minutes passed. The comfortable silence of people who did not need words to say what mattered. "Mr. Hollowell," Eliza said finally. "Yeah?" "Do you think Papa knows that we are okay? That you kept your promise?"
Jesse looked at the sky, at the stars, at the vast, impossible weight of the universe above them.
"I think he knows." "How?" "Because that is what I choose to believe. And sometimes believing something is enough to make it true." Eliza leaned against his shoulder, small, warm. The weight of her not a burden, but an anchor. Something that kept him connected to the earth when the grief and the guilt and the memory of everything he had lost tried to pull him loose. "I stopped sleeping with the knife," she said. Jesse went still. "When?" "Last week, after the hearing." She paused. "I woke up in the middle of the night and reached for it, and then I thought, I do not need this anymore. So I put it in the drawer, and I went back to sleep." Jesse's throat closed. He put his arm around her, pulled her close. "That is the bravest thing you have ever done, Eliza. Braver than walking through a blizzard? Much braver." She smiled against his shoulder. "Can I tell you something?" "Always."
"Hannah talked today."
Jesse turned, looked at her. "What?" "This afternoon, while you were fixing the fence." Bertie took her pencil, just grabbed it out of her hand. "And Hannah said," Eliza's voice was shaking. "Hannah said, 'Give it back, Bertie. That is mine.'" 4 words. 5, Eliza corrected. 5 words. The first words she has said in 8 months. Jesse pressed his hand over his eyes, breathed, just breathed. "What did you do?" "Nothing. I did not want to scare her, did not want to make it a big thing. I just looked at her, and she looked at me, and then she went back to drawing, and Bertie gave the pencil back, and that was it." "That was it. That was everything," Eliza whispered. They sat on the porch as the night deepened, as the stars turned, as the cold pressed close but could not reach them because they were together, and together was warm enough. Inside the house, Nathan slept in a real bed for the first time in months. Lola had left a candle burning in his window, the way she used to do for Jesse after Rosie died. A small light in the darkness. A way of saying, you are not alone, even when the door is closed. In their room, Hannah and Bertie slept tangled together, the way they always did. Bertie's hand in Hannah's hair, Hannah's arm around Bertie's waist. And on the bedside table, Hannah's latest drawing. 5 figures in front of a house, holding hands. And at the bottom, in letters that were steadier than they had ever been, 5 words that changed everything. "This is my family now." Morning came warm for the first time since January. Jesse woke to the sound of laughter. Bertie's high, bright giggle. Eliza's rare, full laugh. And underneath it, quiet but unmistakable, Hannah, laughing. A sound nobody in that house had heard before. Jesse lay in bed and listened. Let it wash over him. Let it fill the rooms that had been empty for 4 years. Let it reach into the corners where grief had settled like dust and sweep them clean. He got up, dressed, walked to the kitchen. They were all there. Lola making pancakes, Eliza setting the table, Hannah drawing at her place with a colored pencil in each hand. Bertie, sitting on the floor, trying to put Jessie's boot on her foot, and failing gloriously. Nathan was at the table, coffee in hand, looking at the chaos with the expression of a man who had forgotten what a family sounded like, and was remembering all at once. Jessie stood in the doorway, watching. Bertie saw him first. Her face split into a grin so wide it took up her whole body. "Papa!" She held up the boot. "Too big. Way too big," Jessie said. "Give it about 15 years. He walked to the table, sat down. Lola put a plate in front of him. Eliza poured his coffee without being asked. She knew how he took it. Black, hot, no sugar. She had learned that in the first week and never forgotten. Hannah looked up from her drawing, looked at Jessie, and spoke. "Good morning." 2 words. Quiet, barely above a whisper. But they landed in that kitchen like thunder. Like the whole house had been holding its breath for 8 months and finally let it go. Lola dropped the spatula, crossed herself, started crying into the pancake batter. Eliza's eyes filled, but she did not let the tears fall. Just smiled at her sister. The kind of smile that said, "I knew you would. I always knew." Nathan looked away, wiped his face with his sleeve, pretended he was not weeping into his coffee. Jessie looked at Hannah, at this 6-year-old girl who had stopped talking because words had become weapons in Edgar Prescott's house, who had spent 8 months saying everything through charcoal and paper, who had found her voice again in a kitchen that smelled like pancakes and coffee and the particular warmth of people who chose each other. "Good morning, Hannah," Jessie said, his voice steady even though nothing inside him was. Hannah looked at him, held his gaze for a long moment. Then she went back to her drawing, but her lips were curved up at the corners, not quite a smile. The beginning of one, the seed of one, the promise that more words would come, and laughter, and someday, maybe, the full voice of a child who had remembered that speaking was safe because the people around her would never use her words against her. Jessie ate his breakfast, drank his coffee, listened to the noise of 5 people in a kitchen that used to hold one. Let it fill in. Let it change him. Let it do what the whiskey and the silence and the 4 years of grief never could. Make him whole. After breakfast, Jessie walked out to the porch. The valley was green. The snow was gone except on the highest peaks. The cattle grazed in fields that had almost killed them 3 months ago. Life coming back the way life always did. Stubborn, relentless, unwilling to stay beaten. Eliza came out, stood beside him. "Mr. Hollowell?" "Yeah." She was quiet for a moment. Then she took his hand, her small fingers lacing through his, the way Rosie used to do when they walked to the barn, the way a child held on to the person they trusted most in the world. "Thank you," Eliza said, "for the one night, and all the nights after." Jessie squeezed her hand, could not speak, did not need to. They stood there watching the valley wake up, watching the light spread across the land, watching the world prove that even after the worst winter in memory, spring came. It always came. You just had to survive long enough to see it. Behind them, the house was full. Lola singing in Spanish, Bertie laughing, Hannah drawing, Nathan telling a story about a bear he met in British Columbia that Bertie demanded he tell again and again. Family, broken and rebuilt, scarred and healing, imperfect and present, and more than Jessie Hollowell ever thought he deserved. He had buried a daughter, lost a brother, spent 4 years turning himself to stone, and then 3 little girls walked out of a blizzard and proved that the heart he thought was dead was only sleeping, waiting for someone brave enough to wake it up. Eliza leaned against his arm. "Papa would be proud of you," she said. Jessie looked down at her, at this fierce, wise, impossibly strong child who had carried her sisters through a blizzard and carried a dead man's letter in her boot, and carried the weight of a family on shoulders that were too small for the job, but did it anyway. "Your papa would be proud of you too," he said. "Prouder than any man has ever been of any daughter." Eliza smiled, that real smile, the one that made her look like what she was, a child, just a child, finally allowed to be one. "I know," she said. "He told me so. In the letter. The one he wrote just for me. The one I have not shown anyone." Jessie did not ask to see it, did not need to. Some things between a father and daughter were sacred, even when the father was gone.
Especially when the father was gone. The sun climbed higher. The day opened up, warm and green and full of the kind of promise that only spring in Wyoming could make. Jesse Hollowell stood on his porch with his brother's daughter holding his hand and his cousin at his table, and his house full of the sound of children, and knew with absolute certainty that he had found what he had spent 4 years pretending he did not need. Not a second chance. Second chances were for people who believed the first one was over. This was something else. Something that did not have a name. Something that started with a blizzard and a baby who said papa, and a 9-year-old girl who slept with a knife, and a 6-year-old who drew the truth when she could not speak it. Something that looked like 3 little girls and sounded like laughter, and felt like coming home after being lost so long you forgot what home was. Jessie squeezed Eliza's hand. She squeezed back. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.